This is SREB, ready for high school math, lesson 2.5 on literal equations. So let's jump right in, okay? So first up, a literal equation will be an equation that contains more than one variable. Okay, so far we've been dealing with one-step and two-step equations where we just had one variable on one side of the equation. Then we delved into multi-step equations where we had the same variable, but it was on different sides of the equation. Okay, so we would have something maybe like 2x equals 5x plus 2, where we still had just x. That's the only thing we were dealing with, but it may have been on two different sides. Now we're going to be dealing with cases where we have multiple different variables, different things that we're not sure about, okay? So we'll have, like in these examples, A equals L times W, P equals 2 times L plus W, okay? So in order to do this, we need to solve the equation, and when we solve the equation, we're going to solve it to isolate a variable, okay? So the word isolate meaning we're going to get it alone, okay? We're going to get one of the variables by itself, okay? So step-by-step process in order to do this. So we're going to figure out which variable that we're being asked to solve for in the equation, okay? So if there's multiple variables, there's really multiple ways that we can potentially answer the question. We're just going to go with whatever they want us to do. And then from there, we're just going to do the same stuff that we always have done, okay? So algebra still works the same way. It doesn't matter if we're dealing with constants or if we're dealing with variables, okay? We're still going to go through and we're still going to combine it the exact same way that we normally do. Okay? Now, oftentimes we cannot usually combine our like terms. Okay, so for example, in the case of 3x minus 2, that won't simplify. Okay, the only time we can simplify stuff is if it's the same variable, okay, which would be like if we had x over here and x over there, or if we had constants together. But in a lot of these examples, that won't be the case. Okay, because we're going to have multiple different variables, and so we won't always be able to add them together. So let's get straight into it. A equals L times W. We're asked to solve for W in these two problems. Well, so let's think about this. LW, okay, there's no visible sign of what's going on between them, okay, there's no plus sign or minus sign, so we're to assume that this is understood to be L times W, okay? So these two are being multiplied to one another. So what undoes multiplication? Well, the answer is division. So to get W alone, to undo multiplication by L, we need to divide by L. And we'll do that on both sides. We'll divide by L. So when we do that, over here, again, seems a little bit weird because we're dealing with variables. But anything divided by itself becomes 1. Doesn't matter if it's a number, doesn't matter if it's a variable. Anything divided by itself becomes 1. So L divided by L will cancel out. And we get that A divided by L will equal W. And so we've gotten W alone. So this will be our answer. Again, it seems a little bit weird because we don't have just a number for our answer, but this is how we go through and we solve these literal equations. We pick one variable and we get it alone. All right, so let's keep going. P equals 2 times L plus W. Okay, so normally what we'd want to do is we would want to distribute this 2 into the parentheses. Now, technically, if we wanted to, we could still do that, but that would actually add an unnecessary step that we don't have to take. Okay, so if we're trying to eventually get this W by itself, okay, that's what we're trying to do. Well, let's think about this. So right now we have 2 times everything in this parentheses, okay? So how do we undo multiplication? We divide. So I'm going to divide by 2 on both sides, okay? So now over here, 2 divides 2, so all we're left with is the stuff in the parentheses. But over here, P divides 2, well, we can't simplify that. Okay, we can't simplify that any more than it already is. So we just have P over 2. Okay, P is a variable, 2 is a constant. We can't simplify that anymore. Okay, we can maybe rewrite it as 1/2 P if we wanted to, but we'll just leave it as P over 2 will be equal to L plus W. Okay, so now we want to get W alone. So the way to do that, we are going to get the L away from the W by subtracting L. by subtracting L. So cancel out on the right. Now, right here, don't put the L underneath this and make this like a triple fraction. Don't do that, okay? When we rewrite this, we have P over 2, and we're subtracting L from this. So minus L will equal W. Okay, so again, it's going to feel a little bit weird until we kind of get used to doing problems like this, okay? Y'all stick with me on these. Y'all stick with me, okay? So that was the first couple. Let's get into a couple more examples. All right, so example 1. We were asked to solve for the variable t. Given this equation, d is equal to r times t. Well, we want to get t alone. So r times t, or rt, we know that's understood to be multiplication. So to undo multiplication, we need to divide. So we want t alone, so we're going to divide by the thing that's on the same side as the t. So we'll divide by r on both sides. So we get that t will be equal to d over r. Okay, let's try another one. Example 2, solve for h. A is equal to 1/2 times b times h. So with this one, 1/2 times b times h. So this is all multiplying to each other, okay? So the way to undo multiplying is we do need to divide, okay? So we'll take this one step at a time just so we don't accidentally try to do too much and accidentally get our answer messed up. So let's start by dividing by 1/2, okay? So we'll divide by the number first, okay? So when we do that over here, 1/2 divides 1/2, that'll cancel out, okay? And we're left with just the b times h. And on this side, we have a divided by 1/2. Keep in mind, anytime we divide by a fraction, we put that fraction in parentheses, okay? So if you're trying to type this in the calculator, you won't be able to type in that a, but what you can do, you can type in the coefficient that is in front of the a, okay? So there is 1a here. So when you type this in the calculator, you can't type in the a, but what you can do is you can type in 1 divided by 1/2. And when you do that, you'll get 2. So there are 2a now on the left-hand side. So we get 2a is equal to b times h. We want h alone. So to undo b times h, we need to divide by b. So the b's will cancel out, and we will get that h will be equal to 2a over b. 2a over b. All right, let's try another one. So next up, we have got example 3. Example 3, which states ax plus by equals c, and we want to solve for a. All right, so first up, we're trying to solve for a. What we want to do first, we want to get a by itself. And in order to do that, a is connected to x. So we always want to try to add or get rid of the things that are being added or subtracted first. So to get rid of plus by, we are going to subtract by. Okay, we're going to subtract that together. Okay, we won't subtract it individually because keep in mind, the b and the y are multiplying to each other as well. So if we subtract it, we're taking the whole thing. So this give me ax will be equal to c minus by. Okay, exactly how it looks. C minus by. There's no tricks to this. Exactly how it looks. So now, we want to get a alone. Well, a is being multiplied by x. So to undo multiplying by x, we're going to divide by x. So the x's will cancel out, and we'll be left with a is equal to c minus by, all divided by x. All right, let's keep going. Example 4. Solve for b. Y equals mx plus b. All right, so this one, we want to get b alone. So for this one will be a little bit easier for us because we don't have anything attached to the b. The only thing we have with the b is this m times x that is being added to it, okay? So we're not going to divide here. We know the m is multiplying 2x, but we're not trying to get the m or the x alone. We're trying to get the b alone. So mx is technically being added to the b because it's a positive mx. So to undo positive mx, we're going to subtract mx instead. So then when we do that, cancel out over here, and we'll get b is equal to y minus mx. All right, example 5, solve for h. V is equal to 1 over 3 times b times h. Okay, so we know that this is 1 over 3 times b times h, so we're going to need to divide. And I'm going to divide it in 2 steps. First, I'm going to divide by 1/3. Okay, so over here, the 1/3 will cancel out. I'm left with just b times h. And over here, this will be v divided by 1/3. We can't type that v into the calculator, but we can type the coefficient in front of the v, which if there's nothing there, there's always an understood of 1. We have 1v. So 1 divided by 1/3 will give me 3v in total. So now to get the h alone, we have b times h, so we're going to divide again. This time we'll divide by b. So we get h will equal 3v over b. All right, let's look at example 6. X plus b divided by 4 equals 2a, and we need to solve for b. All right, so this one, we have this whole thing right now is being divided by 4. So normally our first step would be to think about adding or subtracting, getting rid of that x because the x is being added to the b. But in this case, this is one of those special cases where if the entire side is being divided, then before we can do anything, we got to get rid of this fraction right here. We got to get rid of that 4. And the way to get rid of that 4 is to undo division by 4. We have to multiply by 4. And anything we do to one side, we do to the other side. So we're going to multiply by 4 over here as well. Now, when we multiply by 4, keep in mind, when we do this, this is not going to become 4x plus 4b and all that stuff. That's not going to be what's happened. What we're doing here is we're taking 4 and we're multiplying 4 times the 4 in the bottom here. Or in other words, we're multiplying it by 1/4. So that we'll get 1. So these 4s will cancel out. So we get x plus b will be equal to, well, 2a times 4 will give me 8a because I'm going to multiply the numbers together. So now we got to get b alone. We have x plus b. We have positive x plus b. So to get rid of that positive x, we need to subtract x. So that we'll get b is equal to 8a minus x. And I'll write that here. B is equal to 8a minus x. All right, next up, example 7. Solve for z. X plus 45z equals 90. Okay, so we want to get z alone. So we do have something attached to the z. We also have something being added to the z, a positive x. So to undo that positive x, we're going to subtract x. So we're left with 45z is equal to 90 minus x. Okay, so now from here, to undo multiplying by 45, we're going to divide by 45 on both sides, cancel out on the left. And so with this one, we can leave our answer as z is equal to 90 minus x over 45. Or another way we could think of this is, if we wanted to, we could split this into 2 things. Z is equal to, so anytime we have adding and subtracting in a fraction, what we can do is we can split this into 2 separate fractions. 90 over 45 minus x over 45. Okay, so we can split this into 2. And so in doing this, now we can actually take one of these, this one right here, and we can simplify that a little bit more, because 90 over 45 just gives me 2. So my final answer can be z is equal to 2 minus x over 45.